Welcome to episode 81 of the AMT podcast. I hope all you guys are well. We're joined again by Pez today, and it's been a little while. Life's gotten in the way, and I think we have a couple of announcements from both of us, which we will reveal on this episode. But before that, how you doing, mate? Thanks for joining.
Yeah, it's been a while, but Happy New Year to you firstly. Happy 2026. It's been a bit of a while since obviously we've spoken on phone calls, but been a bit of a while since we've had this sort of setup. So it's been good to get back in the habit of doing this, I suppose. But I've been well. It's been a good start to the year with the Big Bash, obviously, and then a couple of other bits and pieces in the works as well. But how have you been?
I'm good, mate. Happy New Year to you as well. I think we've passed the grace period. I think it's usually after the first 10 days where you can say Happy New Year, but I think we get a pass because we haven't spoken in a while. I actually recorded an episode yesterday for the podcast, and I haven't even put that out yet. But yeah, things have been good. Been busy, been tiring. And yeah, I think the Big Bash has really taken up most of my time. Had a small run over the last week or so where I was literally inactive, and we'll come on to that. Otherwise, things have been going good. I think this has been a good tournament for both of us to trade. Usually we really fired on all cylinders last year. And, I know that you've got a full-time job now, so it's hard for you to juggle things, but we've made a good go of it so far. We're in the closing stages now, and then I think we've got a long overdue break till, say, March, when the IPL and the PSL kick off side by side. But I think I don't know if you'll be joining me for that. Obviously, I know you was abroad during that time last year, but I'm trying to talk you into traveling again because I'm going to need your help. We usually my ROI is usually around 10% higher when we trade together. So if I can get you on board during that time, I'll do what it takes. I'll even pay for your ticket.
Your ROI and my ROI both teams seem to be higher when we're trading together. So no, it is a bit different. Big Bash has been good this year. Probably hasn't. I wouldn't say it hasn't reached the heights that it reached last year, which is fine. You can't break records in profit every single year. But again, it's not over yet. A couple of games to go, and I think we've been seeing him well lately. So we'll see how that wraps up. And I know you mentioned March, April, IPL, PSL. Mate, I'll struggle to do it this year. But before that, there is a World Cup around the corner so February. I think almost straight after the Big Bash, we might have a week respite. And then there's a World Cup. And obviously, the opportunities won't be as good as franchise cricket, but there will be opportunities nonetheless. Anytime there's white ball cricket, I think there's going to be some opportunities, and yeah, let's see how it goes. The World Cup's in India and Sri Lanka, and that brings in all the subcontinental teams, and also there's a whole bunch of non-subcontinental teams that can win it. Whether it be Australia or England or New Zealand or the South Africans. It's I think it's a pretty open comp, so there'll be some opportunity there, and then we'll see how we progress into the IPL, mate. I'd love to do it. It's some pretty ungodly and unsociable hours for myself down in the Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah, that's the nature of cricket trading. I mean, it depends. It depends where you are, which part of the world you're based in. There's always going to be one tournament that has to give. So for me, based on where I live, it's the Caribbean Premier League. There's just no chance I can do those hours. But the IPL is so lucrative, and we made such a good go of it last season. It would be great if I can get you on board. But generally speaking, I know you're pretty senior in your job as a civil engineer, and we've spoken about this in the past. I know you're doing it full time now. How are you juggling your schedule with trading, given the nature of the hours, which could be, when it's in Australia, or whether it's in India, or whether it's in South Asia? How are you juggling your schedule? Are you sort of winging it, or do you know in advance which games you're going to trade?
That's a fantastic question, and to be honest, it's something I probably need to get a bit better at and a bit more, I suppose, professional about. I'm currently working some pretty decent hours, which is fine. It's part of the job. I'm happy to do so. But there has been changes. Like this time last year with the Big Bash, I was, from a formal perspective, unemployed. I could sit at home all day, go to the beach a couple times for a swim, or go wherever, and then I'd had the whole day to prep for the Big Bash, which is probably a reason why I went so well. This year, by the time I get home, I unpack my stuff, I pack my lunch for the next day, I put my clothes away and pack my bag for the next day to go to the gym and go to work, have dinner with the missus. Like, the game's about to start, and I'm scrambling to put notes in, scrambling to put time in, and maybe the earlier years of trading the Big Bash, those reps have sort of counted, and I've got a basic understanding of what's going on, but I certainly don't feel as prepared as I have going into games this year, which is something I need to change. Maybe it's something I need to just stay up an extra 20 minutes the night before, prepping the next game, or it's something that I do need to do. And to answer your question about the other franchises or the other tournaments, it is something I need to think about a lot more, because the Big Bash is right in, prime time slot for me, whereas there's other tournaments like the 100 that I can still do, or the Vitality Blast that I can still do. But what I've learnt is if I'm going to be employed full time and have a go at it, I need to do my preparation, and the preparation might have to be the night before, not half an hour before a game like it has been. And maybe I've just lucked out recently, or lucked out over the years and been lazy and gotten away with it. But now with some proper stakes on the line, I think I do need to do that preparation a bit properly, especially knowing that I'm coming off a full-time job and knowing that, I might not have 100% brain capacity. It's not like when I was unemployed and doing nothing all day, waiting for the Big Bash to start. I've got things to do and brain power to use, and then after that, I've got to recalibrate and have a go again. So I think there's a bit of a fine line. I'm still figuring it out, if I'm going to be honest. I'm not an expert at it yet, but I know that for a fact I do need to improve the preparation part, because I have slacked off, and maybe it's a bit of arrogance after last year's Big Bash, but it's definitely something that I need to, to get better at and to stay humble about is doing the prep and doing the reps before the game starts.
Yeah, for the Big Bash, you being from Australia as well and watched a lot of Australian cricket, you've always had a good, a firm grip on the grounds and the pitches and how they play out there. So I've leaned on you a lot for that. So yeah, hopefully you're there to stick around in the coming years, because like I said, I do lean on you. It's not like the IPL where conditions are so batting friendly. In the IPL, in the Big Bash, there's a lot of pitches where there's things that I miss out on, which you pick up on and you give me that knowledge. And like I said, we just bounce off each other. But speaking of juggling things with your schedule and your trading, it's probably going to be a lot harder now in the coming months and the coming years, given that there's another curveball that's been thrown your way. So so I think there's something you want to tell us. The floor is yours.
Yeah, well, it's I won't say it's too much of a curveball. It's probably part of life when you've
just kidding.
been with someone for a while. But and it was, to be honest, it was a big part of the reason why last year I went back to work and got a full-time job for a bit of stability. But yes, my missus and I are expecting. We've got baby number 1 on the way. So yeah, some big things happening. And then I believe, I don't know, I think a few people probably already know, but you might have some updates yourself.
I do indeed. And guys in the Discord will already know what's going on. I posted in there a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, I introduced a second child of mine into the world. So one's enough, to throw things into disarray, especially when he's approaching 2 years old. But we now got a beautiful baby girl that we introduced into the world now. So things are just full on now. The house is absolute chaos, but it's an absolute blessing. And huge congratulations to you and your missus. And it's just I think the biggest thing. The biggest learning thing, or the biggest thing you look back on when you have kids, is the freedom that you took for granted when it was just you and your partner, or if you were just single. Because now things have to be absolutely regimented. It's so hard to manage different battles on all fronts, being a husband and being a father and being the bread earner. And and it's just chaos in the house as well. So knowing you can't exactly have a dedicated time where you can trade without some noise in the background. Even 5 minutes ago, by the way, I was struggling to hear what you were saying because my little one was kicking off, running up and down the hallway. But these are beautiful things. You know, these are amazing things that you're going to look back on and regret that you weren't fully invested in it. No matter how tired you get, no matter how stressed you get, these moments are beautiful, and I love all of it. Even though I'm knackered all the time, I'm struggling to concentrate. Yeah, it's definitely a beautiful time. And like I said, we can look back on these episodes as a sort of paper trail, and we can see where we were at once upon a time with a new family, or juggling a job like you are before you went full time. So everyone has their own battles. It's never smooth sailing, and I think that's what makes you a man. Responsibilities, figuring things out, struggling, overcoming challenges. And like I said, it can only make you better.
No, absolutely. And I've said it before, but congratulations again. This is, I think, I've obviously, my partner and I, well, I shouldn't say we, she's done all the heavy lifting. She's just ticked over halfway, so we're still a while away from it. But I think we're about to get a reality check of what life is really actually about. And, I think I'm quite excited for it.
I've got one question for you. What's harder?
Yeah,
What's
shoot.
harder to read? Mood swings or market swings? With the missus.
No, she's actually very, very. No, she's very good. She's the I'd say she's the calm one in our household. She's the down to earth. She's the grounded one. I'm the one that's normally pretty headless and sprinting from here to there and changing my mind 500 times. So
Good to hear.
yeah, I think I'm more like I'm more like a market in a T10. I'm all over the shop. My mood swings, and she's like a test format, very stable, not much happening. So yeah,
That's amazing. Yeah, I was only pulling
Yeah,
your leg when I asked you that because, when my missus was pregnant, a lot of my friends
Yeah.
in my friendship group, and I've only got like 4 or 5 guys I'm really close with, and most of them are married and they've got kids, 2 kids as well. And they always say to me, what's it like dealing with the missus and the mood swings? They said to me, be prepared. She's going to be all over the shop. She's going to be crying, screaming. But like you as well, by the way, which is funny. I didn't even know that about your missus. My missus is exactly the same. She was amazing when she was pregnant both times. The second one was a little bit harder, but she was absolutely amazing. She was happy, and she just goes about her business. She's quite tough. She just gets things done. And obviously I help, wherever I can. And, that's something I never had to worry about. I never had to console her, or I never had to go over and beyond just to make sure that she's not down, or she's not stressed, or she's not anxious. Never had any of that. So when people give advice, you can only pour from your cup. You can only go by the experiences that you've had. And, I've been lucky. I've been lucky in many ways. Like I said, my missus didn't give me any of that extra baggage. Neither did yours. And not to mention the fact that I had in-laws who were very hands-on as well, like really hands-on. So I've been so lucky that for the most part, I can just lock into my work. Obviously, my kids are going to be running up and down. Obviously, you're going to have dad duties. But yeah, I think that the people that you have in your life play a huge part in how successful or how profitable you can be in the case of trading.
No, absolutely. You couldn't have said it any better. And I'm pretty grateful for the missus that I haven't. The one thing that she's sort of mentioned her whole pregnancy is how grateful she is even to have the opportunity to have a child. So she's always that's been the thing that she's always gone back to, and it's been pretty smooth sailing for us so far. So touch wood. But in saying that, there has been some wild food cravings. I've seen her eat some. She's normally a pretty good cook. She's studying nutrition and dietetics and very, very smart in the food sort of space. But my goodness, she's eaten some wild stuff these last couple of weeks. Like some things I look at, I'm just like, that's disgusting. How could you even consider eating that? But whatever gets you through, right? I'm not here to judge. But I know you mentioned before the time thing. It's funny, like, I don't have kids yet, and everyone that has kids always, reminds you of how much time you have as someone that doesn't have kids. And for me right now, I feel like I'm time poor. I'll wake up at, say, 4:45 in the morning. I eat my breakfast. I go to the gym. I go to work. I get home. It's 5:30. Hang out with my missus. Hang out with my missus, and then if there's something to trade, I trade. If there's not, then just spend the whole time hanging out with the missus. And right now I feel like I'm time poor. I can't imagine how it's going to change once I have kids. Like, was there a massive difference in how much time you felt that you had once you had your kids?
Well, how much free time I had? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, how much free time? Yeah, how much free time you had?
Oh yeah, I mean it changed massively because, I mean look, but when we were together and we didn't have kids. Literally, if I wasn't working, I mean, I can deal with her walking around or being in my office because she knows when not to disturb me. But obviously, she has to keep everyone away. When I'm in my office and when I'm in the zone. But before we had kids, we could go out for dinner. We could go for a walk. We could watch a movie. We could do anything, and just those things you take for granted. And how can you be appreciative for your free time if you've never had kids before? You can only look back with hindsight and understand how easy things were until you've had children. And after that, literally as soon as I finished work, she expects me to help. So like I said, I'm thankful I've had in-laws who are who really pull their weight, and they do as much as they can. But at the end of the day, it's only me and her living together with our children. So when I'm not working and there's no family around, I have to, feed my kids dinner, or I got to put them to sleep or give them a shower and everything. And before, if I don't want to spend time with her and I want to go out and see my friends or go shisha or have a cigar or play golf, now it's kind of awkward if I do that because she's thinking, hang on a minute, you're having your me time and your downtime. I've been looking after the kids all day. It's now time for you to take over so I can relax. So every time I leave the house now, it's literally a privilege, a gift, and I really make the most of it. I cherish every bit of downtime I have now. But what I will say is that when your kid is first born, it's actually the easiest part. As tiring as it is when people ask you, have you had enough sleep, and how difficult is it waking up every few hours to feed or to put the baby back to bed, that's actually the easiest part because a newborn just sleeps for the first few months. It's when they get to 2 years old, the terrible two that everyone says, where they start becoming more aware, they start knowing how to speak, they start asking for things, they start throwing tantrums, they start running around, exploring, doing dangerous things. That's the age which is a really difficult to manage, especially if they're a boy like my one is. So you can still have your downtime, but you got to be so disciplined with your time management, literally by the hour to the minute, because any free time you got to make the most of it. You can't afford to faff around and say, oh, I'll be a bit late, or I'll go out a bit later, or I'll come home a bit later. Now it's like you got to get things done, and any bit of free time you have, you got to literally cherish it, make the most of it. And me, for the most part now, my free time is just sleeping or relaxing because I'm so tired. So that's one thing I would say. But like I said as well, I've had a big help. So it would be even harder for me if I didn't have family around. I'm not sure if that's the case with you, but you don't realize how much easier life is when you've got in-laws or even your parents as well. My parents are further away, so it's harder for them. But if you've got family around, build a good relationship with your in-laws, or make up with your parents if you haven't been chatting.
Nah, that's pretty sound advice, and I'm pretty fortunate that I talk to my parents almost daily, and I've got a very good relationship with my in-laws. So that's all well and good. Only problem is both my family and my partner's family live a couple of hours away, so I think it'll be just the two of us doing the heavy lifting, and then we'll have the occasional help when they come in to visit. But it sounds like I'm in for a rude reality check. Throughout my 20s, I probably not fell for, but I read all those self-help books and biohacking things about winding down for an hour before I go to bed and slowly getting up and doing this and doing that. Oh man, it sounds like I'm not even gonna have time to go to the toilet in the next couple of months. I think I'm in for a reality check, because I'm someone that used to, after doing all my stuff, go and read my book for a couple of pages, and then go and meditate, and then go and sit down, and then go to sleep and turn off all the blue lights. I think that's all about to get scrapped, isn't it?
Yeah, good luck with all that. Good luck with all that 3 hour morning routine. Like that, what's his name? I don't know if you've seen that guy that went viral on TikTok or Instagram or whatever. I think around 6 months ago. His name is Ashton Hall, that jacked bodybuilder.
Oh
Black
yeah,
guy.
I've
Have you
seen
seen
that idiot.
with the morning
Yeah,
routine where he's
yeah,
pouring water into
put
a
your
bowl
steak
and
in
the
ice
lemon?
water.
It's like a 5 hour morning routine. And he's still done nothing by 11 a.m. It's hilarious. I was just thinking of that when you spoke about that. But yeah, I mean, of course, you can be dialed in with your nutrition and your training, your diet and everything. But in terms of having dedicated times where, I don't know, you avoid your blue light or you do your yoga and your meditation, for the most part, that's all going to go out the window. It's so tough.
Yep.
Because with kids, I mean, it's very hard to have a regimented routine. It's just, and especially when you're trading as well, where one day you could be working at 8 in the morning, the next day you could be trading at 6 in the evening. So everything is already all over the place as it is. Not to mention that you work full time as well. So yeah, it's not that you can't be organized. Obviously, you have to have dedicated time when you do certain things. You can't exactly change when you go to work. If you have if you're working for someone, but you manage what you can and you control what you can. And as for the rest of the things, you just have to make sure that you're on the ball as much as possible. But one thing I do want to say is that every time I do get tired and stressed and anxious and think to myself, wow, this is tough, I also think to myself, you know what, how lucky am I? How lucky am I that I get to trade for a living for a start? I get to do what I want. I'm not rich, but I make above average income. I do make good money. And I was fortunate enough to get married and have kids. And a lot of those things you take for granted because those are things that a lot of people strive towards and they can't even do that. So I'm just blessed. I always see myself as lucky. And if there were ever any problems that you want, there's no better problems to have than being tired because of kids or because of family duties, because these are things I've always wanted. I've always wanted a big family. I've always wanted to have kids. I've always wanted to have a place of my own. So these are problems that I brought forth like to myself. And I don't think problems ever go away. It doesn't matter how much money you make. There's no one in the world who has no problems unless you're living a nomad life alone where you shun all responsibilities. But even that comes with problems in and of itself. So you have to be mindful of what problems you bring forward, you call forth into your life, I mean. And even though it's tough and even though it's hard and some days I'm so stressed and so tired, I can't even work. I just got to switch off altogether. I take a step back and I look at myself and think, you know what? There's no way that I'd rather have it. So just being appreciative and just living a life of gratitude, in my opinion, is the only way, is the only correct attitude to have at all times. So that's probably the best bit of advice I could give to you.
No, absolutely. And, I wholeheartedly agree with sort of everything you mentioned then. It's funny how things change. It's, in my 20s, I probably just wanted the stuff. I don't even know what I wanted. I just wanted things. But I think I snapped out of that, very early compared to probably most people my same age. I never had a fancy car. I never had, a fancy watch or I didn't even really have fancy clothes. But there was always like a wanting part of me. And I think it's probably natural. I think it's natural to be consumeristic when you're, teenagers, early 20s. But, having immigrant parents that wouldn't spend a cent on just about anything apart from bare essentials taught me pretty early that you don't need a whole lot of things to be happy. You don't need a whole lot to survive. And I think, maturing now and turning 30, I've realized I actually don't really want a whole lot. I just want to have the things that you mentioned, a happy, healthy family, and that's it. A bit of money to put away, a bit of money to pay for a place to live that you'll one day own. Life's pretty good. And, whilst the dream is still to trade full time, because the way I see trading is freedom of, where you can be at what time and freedom in choosing your hours, whereas I'm, stuck in an office or on site between the hours of, whatever. That's the way I see it. But, that's my want now. I don't really want to have a fancy car. I don't really want to have really anything. I just want to have a house with a bit of grass. Some kids can run around on one day and a healthy, happy family. And, just on that, actually, there's a book. It's pretty popular down here. It might not be all that popular in the UK at all, but there's a book called The Resilience Project. And for the cricketers out there, the author of the book, Hugh Van Cuylenburg, used to be a cricketer. I think he actually played against Michael Clarke. So he was a good cricketer, but not good enough to play at an international level. And he talks about his lessons in cricket, and there's a couple of lessons in cricket as there are with, a few other bits and pieces in that book. But it's a book about gratitude, and for anyone that really likes sport, or anyone that is a sports person that enjoys it or whatever, he touches bases with a lot of athletes and a lot of sports people, and the main thing he keeps bringing it back to is gratitude and how to live a pretty fulfilling life and look around you and know that, things are pretty good, and how to look forward to things as well. So, I don't want to bang on about it too much, but for anyone out there, it's called The Resilience Project, and it's probably one of my favorite books that I've read, and I actually made a pact with myself to try and read it once a year, just because I think there is some nuggets of gold in there that sort of realigns me, once a year. So, yeah.
Did you say it's called The Resilience Project?
The Resilience Project, that's it.
Yeah, I was just Googling it as you were talking. Wow, I'm definitely going to give that a read. And it reminds me of a little bit about what Charlie Munger said, Warren Buffett's partner at Berkshire Hathaway. And they both had a similar attitude on gratitude as a core component for a happy, successful life. And just by advocating for lowering your expectations and just avoiding envy, practicing contentment is the key to a fulfilling life. Because how much is enough? And look, I have material desires. I'll be absolutely honest, and who doesn't? I'm not a monk, but there was a point in my life, especially before having kids, where I thought, wow, I want to have this watch and I want to have this car. I don't really care about clothes. And now and again, I would post on YouTube videos of me traveling and going to nice places and doing all those things. And, for one thing, I can't even afford to do that anymore when I have kids. But but when it does come to desires, it's not something that you can... I don't think it's something you can suppress. I think it will consume you. If there's something you really want, providing it's not something outrageous, there's something you really want or you really want to do, you can't really kid yourself or bullshit yourself. You can outgrow those desires, and that's a healthy way to do it, but you can't pretend you don't want it, because you'll be crushed. You'll be crushed by it. So I bought one of my dream watches, a couple of years ago. I was lucky to do that. I live in a place I'm really happy to do. I travel to the places that, me and my missus really wanted to go. But once you've done it, it's sort of a fire that just you keep feeding a fire, it's going to keep growing. So you have to know when enough is enough. And I'm literally so happy with the things that I've done or the things that I've got. I now look to the future and think to myself, what's life really about? And honestly, just having downtime, being able to spend time with my family, being able to play golf, and being able to spend time with people that I care about and people who care about me. Those are the most fulfilling parts, most fulfilling experiences of my life. And back on the thing, when it comes to gratitude, there's really no other way to live. There's really no other way to be. And it's so easy and well and good to say, be thankful and be happy when everything is going your way. When you've got a lot of money and you've got everything, it's easy to be happy and be grateful. And it's so hard to do that when you have nothing going your way, when you're getting annihilated. And literally, I'm not going to say everything's going my way right now. Like I said, I do have my own struggles, and I do have things that I battle with. And literally, I still think to myself, look, what other choice is there to be happy? Even if you're unlucky, you should still be happy, because there's no better way you have a better chance of overcoming situations if you have a positive attitude. But you'll be surprised how many people are happy being miserable, because it's easier to complain, it's easier to blame others. But if you genuinely feel grateful for the situation that you're in, and you genuinely feel as if there's a lesson to be learned from this, you'll find a way out for sure. And that's kind of the mantra that I say to myself all the time. If I have a big loss and I'm in the negative for the month, when my outgoings are higher than what I've earned, I always say to myself, you know what, this is a blessing. It's a blessing that I get to do this for a living. It's a blessing that I have a good family, and it's an opportunity for me to learn and to get better. And honestly, this isn't some woo-woo nonsense, because I really feel like my trading results have been testament to that. And that's been a big part of why I've been able to level up as well. Because no matter how much money I was making in the past, I always used to feel greed. And what used to happen is it used to come crashing down by over trading and overstaking, and just how you feel in your mindset really feeds into how you trade the market. So now I'm content. I have gratitude even after a losing day. I know for a fact that I'm blessed to be doing this for a living, and things are always gonna find their way back to normal, with time.
I'm glad you said that, because there's some nuggets in gold in there for someone like me. And, for me, especially what you said about greed and over trading, these are things that have cost me, I don't know how many thousands of dollars. But, last year when I was tracking, I added an extra column to my spreadsheet. Was it over trading or not? And so if it was for a game, for example, if it was like Oman versus Qatar, and somehow I'd placed a bet on it, I'd say, yeah, well, that's over trading. I don't need to be touching that sort of stuff. I looked it up, and it was costing me close to like $800 a month, I'm pretty sure, on average. Every month that I was spending more time looking at a screen just to spend $800 a month. So that is something I need to get better at, absolutely. And the greed component is also something. And it's something I actually probably wanted to ask you is, before kids and after kids, has your trading mentality changed? Because for me right now, I'd say that I'm not that defensive. And people might have seen that in the Discord, in years gone by. I'd always look to get on the offense, and I'd always look to back big odds, and I'd always used to even type in there being like, I'm going to be brave. I'm going to be brave here. This is a spot for me to be brave. I don't know what's happened, but I feel like I've lost that a little bit recently, knowing that, okay, it's, you're not a single bloke in your 20s. It's not just you and your missus where you can piss $500 up the wall and it doesn't matter, because, she won't be working once we have this baby, and I will be the sole sort of income winner. And because of that, I have gone a little bit more defensive, and it might take me a bit of time to adjust to that as well, like having a new way of trading. But did you notice any changes between pre and post kids for your trading?
Yeah, that's a good question. To that, I would say the markets where I have an edge. So if we're trading 2020 test, if we're trading cricket or racing or any of the sports where I have or any of the leagues or the markets where I have a strong edge in, it hasn't changed too much. I've always trusted my edge. I've always still had that same confidence, but having more responsibilities now, the biggest difference is knowing that I can't afford to be reckless in markets where I don't have an edge. So like I said, trading games like Qatar versus Oman, or trading these obscure 2020 leagues in South Asia, all these T10 leagues, or just anything where I don't have an edge. Before, I'd be very tempted to have a dabble, or if I was on a hot run, I'd get overconfident, and it would lead to some spectacular weeks or spectacular months. But in the long run, it was a net loss, and I'm too scared to go through previous years and tally up how many, probably tens of thousands, maybe well over £100,000 I've lost betting in places where I shouldn't have. So, when I could afford to be reckless, my biggest regret is not being as dialed in then as I was now. And I feel like life had to be put under pressure in order for me to step up. So things have tightened up in the sense that I trade a lot less markets now, but the places where I have an edge, I'm definitely still dialed in. I haven't lost that confidence to go on the offensive. I'm happy to go on the offensive. It's just about tightening up and tying up the loose ends and just not getting involved and just not even looking at the markets. As liquid as they are, as tempting as they are, I don't even look at them anymore. There's only 1 or 2 leagues that I trade at any given time. And right now we've got the Women's Premier League. We've got the South Africa 2020. We've got the Big Bash. We've got international games starting now. We've got the Super Smash in New Zealand. We've got the national hunts in the racing. There's so much opportunity there. And before, I would try and grab a piece of everything. And if I'm on a hot run, like I said, I'll be betting bigger and be betting on even more obscure markets. But like I said, I just can't afford to do that now, knowing that I've got hungry mouths to feed, knowing that my bills are through the roof now. So, but back on what I said about spending as well earlier, if I wanted to buy this watch or if I wanted to go on holiday, I can't even afford to do those things if I wanted to anymore. You know, just having a kid is so expensive. Nursery, milk, the nappies, buying them toys. Now I've got 2 kids and I'm the only one that's working, at least for now. I think I'm going to have to kick the missus out the house once she's recovered. I'm going to have to get her to get a job. But these are things you don't even realize. And I really wish I had the foresight to know that, you know, this is how it's going to be. And I never had I would never tally how much I would make and what my outgoings were until the first 3 months of having a child, because literally it was like a slow bleed on my account. I'd be ticking over so well, and I think to myself, where the hell has all my money gone? So my biggest regret as a single person, before I even met my missus, and even when it was just us two, my biggest regret is not feeling that pressure, not being as dialed in, where I could save super aggressively. And I think towards the future, you know, I was riddled with material desires, which I still wanted to fulfill. And like I said earlier, you can't really suppress them in some ways. You got to fulfill them before you can move past that. And I'm glad to say I've moved past most of them. But there is a little bit of that regret there where I traded a bit more recklessly than I should. And like I said, it probably tallies up to around 6 figures, the amount of money I've given back needlessly. And that's just something that not only am I disciplined to not do anymore, something that I can't even afford to do. So even though I'm trading as well as I've ever done, there's little to show for it.
And I suppose there's a difference between you and I is, despite all those quality tournaments on right now, I still managed the time and the effort to place a bet on Netherlands versus Scotland Women World Cup qualifiers yesterday. So,
Oh, God.
Oh, boy. It ended up winning.
How liquid was that? It was probably no more than 50 grand going through the market on that sort of event.
Something like that. But I looked at it and they needed to go at 10 and over for the last 2 overs, so I just backed the bowling side and it paid off. But that is not something I want to be doing. Like, I don't need to be, you know, as you said, if I've got 5 minutes spare, you know, once a baby does arrive, that's not the stuff I need to be doing. So, yes, I got away with it, but it's actually, you know, it's actually a mark in the naughty column, not the good column, even though I did walk away profitably from that. I think it's, you know, as you said, you got to pick my moments a little bit better, and I need to be a bit more disciplined here and realize that it's not just my money now. It's not just, you know, I saw a post on Twitter the other day, and it was a mattress on the floor, a TV next to it, a bench press in one corner, and, you know, I think it was a pot plant, and being like, is this enough? And I was like, man, I could live my whole entire life like that, to be honest. I don't need all the things that I've got right now, but I'm so glad I've got all the things that I have right now. But I remember seeing that and being like, yeah, that's, you know, that is enough. But
yeah. What's it? I mean, the camera on my podcast doesn't really capture the room that I'm in, which is my office, and it's pretty much like that. I don't have a bench press here, but it's literally just a day bed and my desk, and there's nothing else. I don't allow anything on my desk apart from my podcast machine, which I pull out when I'm recording. But it's just as simple as possible. I've just got my computer, I've got my golf clubs, a putting mat, and literally I could spend most of my days here just locking in and just doing what I have to do. So men are simple creatures, but yeah, it's hard justifying that to a woman. I mean, she goes crazy when she comes in and thinks, how can you not have furniture? How can you not have a table with a plant pot on it? Or how can you have no wallpaper?
Oh, our house is starting to look like a rainforest, to be honest. So we've got pot plants and trees just in about every single corner, which is, to be honest, it's nice. I actually prefer having some things to look at and have the nice looking house rather than simple. But now, to go back to the trading, it is absolutely something I need to dial in and be a bit better. And one of my goals this year, which I think I said to you on a phone call, was almost to work like a lion and not like a sheep. And the reason I sort of said that is I knew I was going to be time poor this year. I know that right now I have all this time and I have all this freedom, and it's not always going to be the point. It's actually from a couple of months in the future, I'll never have the same amount of time as I have now, from now until who knows how long, until decades down the track. And shit, I didn't even really realize that till I just said it out loud just then. But yeah, it's a long time to not have the amount of freedom and time that I've got right now, isn't it? But to go back to my goal, it was to work like a lion, not like a sheep. And for me, when I mean that, means that like, when I'm working, I'm dialed in and I'm working properly. And then when I'm not, I'm sort of resting, Like a lion will sleep 20 hours a day. It'll hunt for 4, if that. And it just does that on repeat, and it's somehow king of the jungle. Whereas I tend to do stupid things like graze on a women's match between Scotland and the Netherlands yesterday. It doesn't need to be bet on. It does take brain power. It takes a little bit of brain power. It takes a little bit of my attention, and that's attention and brain power that I can't get back for that day. So I think I need to be better at it. And even earlier on in this tournament, I caught myself. Let's say I'd be having dinner with the missus because we were both running late. I'd have one eye on her, one eye on the cricket, phone in my hand. Doing that is not servicing anyone. It's grazing. I'm grazing. I'm half entertaining my missus and half hearing about her day and knowing what's happening and just nodding along. Yep. Oh, no way. Without really actually paying attention. And I'm half paying attention to the cricket. I got no idea how good the pitch is. I'm just watching every other ball. I got no idea what the market's doing or anything. And for me, now is a great time to cut that out, because it's something that I need to cut out now, because I know that in a couple of months' time and then a couple of years' time and even in a decade's time, I'm not going to have that luxury to half concentrate on something and half not. And I'm better off doing something properly than half-assing both and then having my missus cranky at me because I didn't hear a word she said about her day, and then pissing money up the wall in the big bash because I got no idea what's happening and I'm just gambling, not trading. So that is something that I've sort of set myself is to be better. And I think you mentioned before, you got how dialed in you have to be with the kids. Yeah.
No, that such a good point you made, and I really love that quote. To hunt like a lion and not be a sheep. And experience is your biggest teacher. I've been through that as well. I've been, if I have to go and do something, I'd literally have my phone out. I would have Betfair out while I'm driving, and I know this is a horrible thing to admit, but look, this is the reality of someone that was pretty much addicted to trading. I was doing it, trading anything and everything, and I wouldn't want to hedge out if I felt like the odds were going to move in the direction which I anticipated it. So I'd be driving, I'd have one phone in hand. During the crypto bull run in 2021, literally I'd pull up on the side of the road when Elon Musk would tweet about Doge just to fire in a bet. It was that degenerate. And yeah, it gets to a point where you either learn the hard way or life forces you to learn. And, now, I've worn these clothes before. I know where that road leads. And if I tally up my returns just by betting on things half-assed, it's in all likelihood going to be a net negative or at evens at best. And betting in obscure markets where I have no edge in, like I said, I'm down almost 6 figures, likely 6 figures in that regard. So I've been down this road before. I've now got even more reason and motivation not to do those things with a young family. And like I said, hindsight's 2020. If I had this mindset, if I was this careful a few years back, I'd have a lot more money now. But look, it's better to learn late than to never learn. And I'm 34 years old. I've got a lot of time ahead of me, and I have done rather well. But if you want to be the best as you possibly can, and if I'm gonna advise you or to anyone's listening, it's to avoid the mistakes that I've made. And that's the smart thing to do, to not do the things that other people have done. And I'm sure a lot of people can empathize with the things that we're saying. All traders face the same struggles. So, yeah. But when it comes to fatherhood as well, I think there's a lot that we'll have to talk about, not only here, but in future episodes, because it's a never-ending journey. It's something that you're learning on the job. And I think it's exciting times ahead. It's going to make a man out of you. These extra responsibilities, it's tough, but I can now look back on my father. A lot of things I didn't understand about him, and a lot of things that I didn't agree with him on, and things have come full circle in that regard. I now appreciate the man that he was, providing for his family, having dedicated time away where he couldn't spend time with us. And yeah, it's taken me a long time to come to that realization, but that's kind of what life does.
No, I mean, I look forward to it all. So let's see how it all pans out.
Let's do that. Yeah, definitely. I think that's a lot for listeners to chew on for now. But I just want to give you a big congratulations again. On this news in your life, and it's going to be a beautiful moment. Cherish every day, because you'll never get these days back. You don't want to look back on your kids when they're 10, 15, 20 years old and think to myself, wow, I missed out on all these important moments because I wanted to trade, or there was some value to be taken and I didn't take it on. None of that matters in the grand scheme of things, and there is more than enough time and more than enough money out there to make. You just got to be a lion and not a sheep, as you said.
Well, thank you. That's very sound advice, and congratulations on number 2, mate. Well done.
Really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. And Happy New Year again, and Happy New Year to everyone listening as well. Hopefully we can make this a regular fixture going forward. We're going to have a lot of things to talk about, and a lot of things you'll be able to understand as well as you get closer to fatherhood.
No, absolutely. Thank you for having me on again, and look forward to catching up again, hopefully a lot shorter in between drinks this time.
Definitely. It's a pleasure as always. Speak to you soon, Pez.